Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we will talk about a very interesting company. The name of the company is Formula One, ticker symbol FWONK. There's a bunch of catalysts that have happened, but the market has not factored them in my opinion, and that are also about to happen that the market is not really concerned about. This company is very interesting because we've covered stocks which have multi-bagger potential. This company does have multi-bagger potential, but the time horizon is going to be longer. So if you're an aggressive investor, this video is not for you. So maybe you want to click away, but I'll still provide some good value hopefully that you can enjoy. So this company, as I said, is interesting, and also I like it because the market has gone up quite substantially, right, in the recent times, and there might be a pullback. So during the pullbacks, this is now considered defensive company because the revenues and the profits are kind of well modeled and people know about them. With these catalysts that can just materially change those numbers, and when there's more certainty around a company, when analysts can project free cash flow, analysts can project revenue, they can project net income, the multiple for that company expands because they have some sort of certainty, right? Market loves certainty, as we know. So the market comes down, this stock will not come down, and these catalysts, if they play out, the stock will have 30 to 40% potential in a very short period of time. So that's why I really like it. I have a position in my portfolio at that time. If the catalysts play out, the market is down, I can sell this position and reposition into more aggressive names which will do better when the market comes back. So that's generally my strategy around these defensive names, and I do like those catalysts. So we'll talk about the catalysts. I'll tell you how I see this playing out, and things like that, if there's any potential risks according to me. So, first of all, if you haven't heard about this, the Formula One movie came out. It's doing really, really well so far. It's about to do $300 million in box office. They're anticipating it by the end of this week that they'll do $300 million in the box office in the States alone. So this company has been wildly successful. There's been talks about Formula One, like the movie having a sequel soon, and that could be another catalyst in the future. But just barring that, the movie is actually leading to a lot of search trends. As we can see, the next GP, that's the Silverstone GP, is already sold out, and the movie is to do with that, because we can see worldwide the trends for Formula 1 and F1 are starting to explode. The movie obviously has something to do with it, but if you look at the F1 tickets, F1 tickets are also seeing a nice little surge here. This was not there last season, so that's nice to see. People have more interest, and Formula 1 highlights in the United States are also seeing this bump, which is also, kind of tells you that the whole ecosystem is actually benefiting. People are more interested in the sport, and the movie has a lot to do with it. The F1 tickets in the United States also are seeing this surge. It's important to note that the next race is actually in October, so people are getting ahead of it. So that's nice to see. And I should also point out, so there's 3 races in the US right now, 4 or 5 years ago, there was only one, the Miami GP or the Austin GP. Now they have added Miami. They've added Las Vegas as well. So now there's 3 Grand Prix, and they're expanding significantly into the States because we know from other companies as well, the US consumer is so lucrative in terms of TV rights. TV rights for NBA, NFL, NHL go like crazy. Those amounts are those contracts are really big. So, and same thing for F1, with Drive to Survive from Netflix over the last 5 years, their TV rights have gone from a minuscule 5 million per year to 80 million per year, and now F1 is looking for almost 150 to 180 million. So, and that could play out because we can see since the movie has even before the movie, right? The April, this is the web traffic data. You'll see it's so high, it's quite high as compared to last year, right? And even the app data is very high as compared to the prior year. The app data is very important because they have their own subscription service, which is the F1 TV subscription service, and that also benefits, obviously, right? Directly benefits from this these search trends. So they'll have more subscribers that they'll add to it. That's direct revenue going to them, and this really helps them out as well. So I think the first catalyst is the TV rights. So I just talked about it briefly. The first catalyst is the TV rights. So the TV rights, the market is anticipating the kind of waiting as to when this TV rights deal is going to be announced. The last 2 times, say the deal expires in 2021, the terms of the deals are already known in 2020. This year, this is going to be concluded in 2025, the end of this season, and we still don't have any word as to who the person is going to be. So the company mentioned that on their, so I believe these TV rights will either be announced on the next earnings call when they'll probably tell us what's happening, or on November 20th on their investor day in the Las Vegas GP. So once this is announced, they're looking for $150 to $180 million. The market believes that that's not possible. The market thinks that they can get about $120 million. So that's the first catalyst. We're seeing all these search trends spike. We're seeing the with the movie, with the Drive to Survive and everything else. There's more interest around F1, and the Miami GP was 45% like higher year over year in terms of just the interest. Now they've been very smart. Liberty, as I've talked about, if you watched all my videos, I love the Liberty companies and how well they run their companies. So with this movie coming out and the kind of reception it has gotten, you can see that the interest for F1 has gone up significantly. Like I pulled up a tweet on my D-Box video last time where the Apple executives were saying that before the movie, 18% of the people had watched an F1 race. After they watch the movie, they're very interested in that number. Like almost everyone wants to watch an F1 race at that point, right? So the tickets is directly proportional to what they're going to get as revenue. This is nice to see. This brings in sponsors, everything else, just besides the TV rights. But with all this, all this hype around F1, you can see how Apple would be interested. So this is my bet. I feel like Apple is going to be the one who's going to be interested because they spent $300 million on this movie, right? So they're seeing they pushed the notification for the movie to the Apple TV subscribers as well. So they're trying everything they possibly can to make this movie a success. And they've already talked about very favorably about this movie. They're very happy about the reception it has gotten in the market, and talks about part 2 are already happening. So it would make a lot of sense for them to buy these rights out. Maybe they won't pay 180 million. Maybe they'll pay 150 million, 130, 140 million. Anything higher than what the analysts expect could lead to significant, re-rating in a very short period of time. And the other thing about this is as you know, the women audience on average for most businesses are 2 times as more valuable than like the male audience. So F1 right now boasts 42% of female fans. So this is quite big for the company because these female fans, are more. They spend more money. They're more into it. I've talked about D-Box as well. That's an ancillary beneficiary from all this. But the women will also watch, and like they loved, like women in general. The reason why Drive to Survive was successful has been so successful is because of the drama, and women love that part of the franchise as well. Netflix potentially also with Drive to Survive will be someone who would be vying for those rights, but they've already spent a lot of money on other sports, so maybe they won't come in. Amazon could be another one because 22% of their spending goes to TV rights as well. So Amazon is another one, but Amazon and Netflix are probably gonna be pitting against Apple. And that's how I think Formula One is going to play this. They're going to try to pit these like rivals against each other and see what who comes up with this. Because I could see Netflix making sense. Apple now, especially after the movie and the success of the movie, they would be in. And I mean, we know they have endless cash reserves, so this 150, 180 million for them is not that big of a deal, right? And as we can see, the search trends are spiking, and yeah, so this is really good. The next thing, which is huge for them, is the MotoGP acquisition. So MotoGP was acquired by them for $4.5 billion. Now, MotoGP has seen decline recently. There's no real interest around this. It's quite similar to what Formula One was in 2017, 2018, right? Until the Drive to Survive series came out, when the US interest took off. And as I said, the US interest, or the US consumer, the ARPU on that is so high. So everyone who is in this market is very interested in getting that US consumer. So the same thing for MotoGP right now. There's minimal interest for MotoGP in Europe as well, to some extent, as well as in North America. So if they're able to make the MotoGP acquisition work, this could be massive, because they bought it for $3.5 billion, right? Like there's teams that are worth more than this entire sport. So there's a lot of upside in this, in this for them. The other thing also is they're kind of competing each other, right? It's motorsports, so Formula One versus MotoGP to some extent. With them buying it, they can have the race schedule like the 1 week, in week 1, week 2, there's an F1 race. Week 3, there's a MotoGP race. Week 4, there's an F1 race. Week 5, there's a MotoGP race, and then that allows them to kind of work with the broadcasters as well, because the broadcasters will be like, well, like instead of like one sport, we have 2 sports, and we can show those sports. So initially, I think whoever signs this is a prediction that I'm making, whoever signs a deal with them in the States is probably going to say that we need the MotoGP rights right away. And they have talked about a playbook like Drive to Survive for MotoGP as well, with the golf series has done really well, where they talk about the live golf and everything else. Drive to Survive obviously has done really well, and MotoGP, people don't really know anything about it as much as compared to obviously F1. So if they're able to do another playbook with that, like Apple say, hey, you give us the rights to do the MotoGP series on on Apple, and we pay you or whatever, and that would be synergistic as well, right? So I could see Apple coming in, I could see Amazon coming in. So the MotoGP, like, there's a lot of room for them to increase the value of this brand. It's only at $3.5 billion, right? So let's say 5 years from now, the US and the European viewership, goes higher significantly. There's another 3 to 4 billion dollars. That's like 20% of the market cap x the Live Nation Live Nation subsidiary. That's 20 to 25% just from this. And then also, like, the TV rights, if they go through, you can potentially add like 10 to 15%. And then when you do a renegotiation with Sky or like other places all over the world, that number becomes a baseline to some extent, and people in other countries have to pay a higher percentage as well. And like second tier, third tier countries have really small deals as well, and money is flowing into the likes of like India, and like the China deal is pretty lucrative as well. So there's that recycle which will happen with the TV rights, and maybe analysts will start to monitor that in as well, price that into it as well, and the revenue projections for 2030, 2031 change materially, and that could lead to a re-rating as well in the stock. So I mean, like, if you think about it, like F1 and MotoGP combined right now are selling for $20 billion, when Lakers alone sold for $10 billion. I mean, yes, Lakers, iconic franchise, it's part of a league that's worth a lot in terms of NBA. But if you think about it, MotoGP is quite like, it's becoming really popular as well. And like, the market is not restricted to the US alone. There's a European market, there's like an Asian market. So there's the TAM is huge for F1. So one can say, just on valuation alone, F1 is undervalued to some extent, right? So these are the catalysts that I wanted to talk about, and I feel like they will play out over the next few periods. Now, this is the results. One, on the face value, you can look at the results and say, hey, well, these numbers were really bad. The only reason why these numbers were so bad is because the Miami GP last year was in Q1, and this year it is going to come in Q2. So you'll see a huge surge in Q2 income and the mix as well, right? So the Miami revenue is going to be higher than all other GPs, and you'll see like all the millionaires and billionaires on different podcasts, like the All In podcast, have been talking about F1, and we're seeing this becoming part of the conversation more. So I think it's only starting, and especially with this movie and whoever gives them the deal next with F1, like with MotoGP as well, like there's a lot of a significant potential for upside. The other thing that I want to talk about, the first picture that I showed you guys, the Vegas GP, right? Like, this is an iconic GP. Last year, what happened in my like, from my perspective as a viewer, is this race was almost immaterial by the point it got there, right? And the prices were so high that people just decided not to go, because Max Verstappen had already taken the lead away, and most of the race was already decided by then. So for most other races, F1 is not directly involved with this GP. They just basically get money from the Grand Prix, from the locations and everything else, and that's how they make their revenue, and from the ticketing and stuff. But with this, F1 has spent a lot of money, a lot of capital in building up the infrastructure around the Vegas GP. So last year, when the race was already decided, there was less interest around it. People didn't go and everything else, and that caused them to have an underwhelming result from the Vegas GP, which they expected it to be a blockbuster GP. This year, as we've seen, the US ticketing search trends are already exploding, right? So the Austin race will probably have more people. That's going to lead to hopefully more interest around the sport, and that could also lead to the TV rights coming in stronger. But the Vegas GP, if the race stays close right now, I think it's less than 10 points between Piastri and Norris, and Verstappen is obviously on the fringes as well. And if he has a couple of good races, which we know he's capable of, they can have a three-way title race all the way towards the end. And if the title race is still in somewhat in the mix by the Vegas GP, that will be a huge revenue booster for them, and you'll see that revenue expand significantly. Just the conversation around F1 has gone up significantly, right? Like the All In podcast, as I mentioned, and there's a couple other podcasts as well with people who are very who kind of define popular culture. They've been talking about F1 quite a bit as well. So that could be another catalyst for F1 going forward, and that could lead to a value. Like a multiple expansion for F1 going forward. As I said, TV rights will lead to earnings expansion. So, and if you've been following this channel, I've been saying in the past as well, the stocks where there's both in terms of earnings expansion as well as multiple expansions, generally those stocks tend to do really, really well. And this is why I like the stock so much. I don't see major downside from here on, given the fact how good they are with execution, how good Liberty is with execution, and all these catalysts that could lead to like a 30-40% gain on the stock in a very short period of time. Now again, as I said, if you're watching after 15 minutes, I really appreciate you. I don't want to give you stocks or like, mention ideas or something that'll help me with views. I want to talk about stocks or ideas that I think have major upside, and I'm gonna be very transparent with the downside as well. Like, because I really think that the KOLs have, I guess in this case me as well, right? We have a responsibility towards our audience, and I'm going to try to adhere to that responsibility as much as I possibly can and share everything candidly. If I think I was wrong, I'll share that. If I'd say I was right, I'll share that. What kind of upside I'm expecting from different stocks, what kind of downside there could be, right? So I'm going to try to be as candid as possible, and I hope you guys appreciate that. And I really appreciate you watching until the end. If you can, please share with a friend. Please like and subscribe to the channel, whatever YouTubers are supposed to say. So yeah, I really like to see the growth that's happening. Thanks for all the comments and stuff as well, and I'll continue to do well. I'll try to make more content and try to like bring more opportunities to you. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.